there, I am Wild Humphrey, and they call me the Fact Master, because I'll tell you all the things you never knew you didn't know. Some that you do, and I'm back with a fact or two today for you. Now, Charles the First, not England's most popular king. He ascended to the throne on the 27th of March 1625, and he was the second of the Stuarts. His father was James I, and Charles I's reign is noted for many things, and none of them are really good. He made lots of bad decisions to Charles I, and he had this insane belief that God would always support him whatever he did. The first mistake he made was just a few months after becoming king, when he married on the 13th of June Henrietta of France. Now, Henrietta was a Catholic and this was a Protestant country, so this wedding marriage did not go down well at all with Parliament, with the noblemen of the country, or with any advisors that Charles had. But he didn't care. God was on his side. He was the king. If I want to marry Henrietta, that's what I'm going to do, and that's what he did. And between them, they actually had 9 children, 5 girls, 4 boys. So they stuck together through thick and thin, and there was plenty of thick and thin to stick through. A year after they were married, on the 2nd of February, Charles I had his coronation, and at that coronation his wife Henrietta was not allowed to be there because she was a Catholic, and that was it. He could do nothing about that. So he just had to go in there, do it on his own, thank you very much, and meet her later. Now, during his reign, I said he made some bad decisions. One of them, another one, was he made an enemy of a guy named Oliver Cromwell, and this spelt big trouble for Charles. The two men started a civil war. I started this war in 1642 and lasted till 1651, and there are numerous famous bloody battles in there. The Battle of Edge Hill, Naseby, Gainsborough, to name a few, and the final battle was actually the Battle of Worcester, which took place on the 3rd of September 1651, when the Roundheads finally defeated Charles's Cavaliers for the last time, and it was over. But at this point, Charles himself, the king, had been dead for over 2 years because he'd been put on trial by Cromwell, charged with treason, found guilty, and beheaded on the 30th of January 1649. The White King, as he was known, was dead. The only king ever to be executed by the blade of an axe. His grandmother was Mary, Queen of Scots. She was also famously put on trial, charges of treason, found guilty, and beheaded, and she lost her head on the 8th of February 1587 on the orders of Elizabeth I, which means that James I is the only king in history whose mother and son were both found guilty of treason and both beheaded. He was the White King, Charles I. His grandmother, Mary, Queen of Scots, well, she was known as the White Queen. Both of them came to a bloody end. But Charles I, he didn't have to go that way. He just kept making bad decisions. Even throughout this trial, he could have walked away, but he refused. He believed that God somehow would intervene. There'd be this divine intervention and things would go back to normal. No. He was a bit of a humorist as well, Charles I. On the day of his execution, he's kneeling down there waiting for the axeman to do the business, and the axeman knocked the blade of the axe against the wall, and the king heard this and said to the axeman, "Hurt not the thing that is going to hurt your king." Well, I think that actually settled the axeman down a bit, because moments later, off came the king's head. Now, Charles I is remembered as this pretty unlucky king. He married a wife that he really shouldn't have. He made bad decisions all the way through. He had his coronation on his own. He was actually the last king ever to have a coronation, which meant he'd be using the crown jewels that belonged to Edward the Confessor, because during the Civil War these jewels disappeared. And he's also the only king who, when his reign finished, was not followed by another king or queen. He was followed by Cromwell, the Lord Protector, and Cromwell stayed Lord Protector until 1658, when he died on the 7th anniversary of the Battle of Worcester. And after him, the people were fed up with Lord Protectors. His son had to go for a while, but he was terrible. And during Cromwell's reign, he banned all things that seemed good. People couldn't enjoy themselves, they couldn't go out, they couldn't have parties, you name it, they couldn't do it. And he even banned Christmas. So Charles II was waiting in France, and he was finally invited back to England in 1660 to restore the monarchy, which is exactly what he did. But one of the first things Charles II did, he had Cromwell's grave opened, his body, exhumed, put on trial, and then he had Cromwell's body hung, drawn and quartered, and his head put on a spike at the Tower of London, which stayed for 20 years, and that is a fact. But this story's been about Charles I, the man who ascended to the throne 27th of March 1625, married Catholic on the 13th of June the same year, had a coronation on his own, fell out with everybody, had this crazy belief that God was always with him, and ended up losing his head, and that is a fact. Thanks very much for watching. Please make sure you subscribe to my channel, because I'll be back soon with some more stuff for you, and that is a fact. Cheers.